I happened to go camping last night in a tent. So that made it a wonderful night for it to be raining all night long, all night
In a
long
in a tent in the cold
in a tent.
outside. Yeah, sounds
And
awful.
actually it was like, yeah, the temperature was perfect, dude. It was like I slept like a baby. That was great. Um, but yeah, the rain and actually the tent proved its worth. It was waterproof. I mean, like I didn't have one drop of water inside the tent, so that was great.
That is
So it was
good.
actually, I mean, as miserable as that sounds, it actually was quite nice. It worked out pretty well. So
I suppose as long as you're undercover and you're not getting wet, and it's I mean, it can be raining and a nice temperature, so it's
yeah,
all good. So it's good to hear.
yeah, yeah, it
When
was
you
fun. We had a good time.
when you said you're outside in a tent in the rain, I didn't really like the sound of that. So what did you go somewhere and camp, or just in the backyard, or
We did.
yeah, cool.
Yeah, no, we had a like at our church there was like a father son camping thing. So there was a bunch of dads and kids out there. It
Mm-hmm.
was super fun. So
Nice.
went and rode mountain bikes on some trails. Eric Barnes would have been proud. So that was fun. Did a couple little jumps. I didn't, well, I didn't want to take it too crazy. I didn't hit like the black diamond level jumps, but
You don't want
just
to.
rolled.
You didn't want to upstage anybody, right? You wanted to look
Didn't want to ruin my tools,
sure.
right? My my money makers over here.
Yeah, you
I was
definitely
like,
got.
I think about that sometimes. It's like you break your arm, like you're out of work, like that's not gonna be good. So
Yeah.
I
Even
told
even
myself
when
to
I was
take it
playing
easy.
basketball, just like yeah, even just a dislocated finger or a sprained finger or something like that, you'd be surprised how much it affects your ability to do anything useful.
For sure. For sure. I remember I broke my finger in soccer one time. I was playing goalie. I broke my finger, and like
Hmm.
that was when I was learning to type in junior high, and that was bad.
Yeah.
I still type weird. Still got like a splint on my finger. It was a
Nice.
mess. Hey,
Nice.
this
Nice.
is not
Nice.
the news you guys came to hear, so we're going to get into the actual news, which we are here to hear. And we only have one release to share, um, which is an important Laravel security update. So the Laravel team released an important security update for Laravel 6 and 7, so 6.18 and 7.22, with a planned security release for Laravel 5.5 LTS forthcoming. And the recommendation is that you should update your applications to the latest patch release as soon as possible, especially if you happen to be using the cookie session driver. Now, as I read this blog post, what I believe is happening is that you have the possibility of a user being able to figure out what your app key is, or to essentially craft their own cookies that your app would accept. So thankfully, Laravel does some really nice stuff for you in the background. One of the things that you want to be able to do is if you have values stored in the session or in the cookie, they're going to be signed typically by your app key that you have in Laravel so that somebody can't just change them out from under your application. But if you have a spot in your application where you take text from the user, encrypt it, and then later display that somewhere else, there was apparently enough information for them to be able to like reverse engineer and be able to create their own encrypted values that they could put into the cookie. So this update takes care of that and stops that from being able to happen. So yeah, it's an important one for sure. And if you're using the cookie driver, you should definitely, it's the cookie session driver to be clear. You
Yeah.
should definitely update this as quickly as possible.
Hmm.
Which we ended up doing this Friday. We updated a couple, I believe. So
Beautiful.
yep, it's an important one. So check
Yeah.
that out.
Yeah, when
Yeah,
I saw this one, I took it as an opportunity to go and fix up all my Dependabot configs, which had because we use Dependabot in GitLab, so we have to do it manually from the Dependabot script. That is, it's an open source thing, but it doesn't have the integration with Dependabot.io like it does with GitHub. So that had been reporting errors for a little while. So we took that as an opportunity to go and fix that up and make sure that everything was up to date. And yeah, definitely get on it. And kudos to the Laravel team for getting the fix out so quickly.
absolutely. We also have some news going on here.
Hmm.
That was literally the only release we have. So let's move on to news, and we have an awesome development, which is a new community as
Yeah,
a little like sub community of the Laravel community.
that is correct. There is a growing community of women developers in the Laravel community, and Zuzana Kunchkova, sorry, Zuzana, has started Larabels, which is a community that focuses on reducing barriers for women to enter the world of technology. Um, and it started earlier this week and was met with the typical unhelpful responses. But
Was it
overwhelmingly
seriously?
positive. Yeah,
Oh
it
my gosh, I
was.
didn't see that.
Yeah, no,
I
it's
saw a
best.
bunch of like positive stuff. I didn't see any
Yeah,
negatives.
no,
I must have just came
unfortunately.
late to the party.
Yeah, unfortunately, it was met with the same pointless drivel that we see a lot when anything, when there's any group that is not just a normal genderless, colorless, all that kind of stuff that happens. So it happens
Yeah, yeah.
everywhere, but I think it was dealt with very well by both Susanna, by a lot of the people in the community met all of that negativity. Matt Stauffer was fantastic with it as well. So he's been assisting, and as you know, for those of you who don't know, Matt is always looking out for new people and underrepresented groups and things like that. So Laravel is a community that focuses on reducing barriers for women to enter the world of technology. They do this by encouraging more girls and women to consider a career in tech, and by providing a safe space to feel welcome and supported, not just at the beginning of their development career, but throughout. Laravel is aimed to make the world of Laravel development more accessible to women by promoting women and their accomplishments and projects, by providing networking and socializing opportunities, and by sharing resources. So it's already being sponsored by the Laravel partner Untitled. So Matt Stauffer's company is backing it as well. You can check out the website for ways to get involved, and please support them by following along on Twitter at Larabells PHP, sharing with friends, and signing up to the newsletter on larabells.com. It's a terrific initiative, and I look to see it blossom in the future.
Yeah, so I think one thing, honestly, that one of the first things I saw about it was Abigail Otwell, who was, of course, Taylor's wife. And so she tweeted and said, I think this is awesome. As a woman, going to a women's book club, a sewing club, a gym is just far more comfortable. So I don't know why
Mm-hmm.
all these people are losing it over this, which I thought was like a great parallel, right? I can totally see how if you're going to a gym with a bunch of like musclehead dudes, it would
Yeah.
probably be a lot more comfortable if you just had like, hey, there's going to be a bunch of girls at this gym. Like, I'm going to go there, right? That'd be more
Yep.
comfortable. So
Absolutely.
I can totally see how in like a male dominated space, it would be very intimidating as a woman to try and break into that. And so to have other, to have camaraderie with other people who, are the same gender as you, I think could be obviously
Definitely.
really helpful. So
Definitely.
yeah, so definitely get on board with supporting these ladies and give them lots of love. Nice job. Okay, we also have Laravel Homestead 11. I have not used Homestead in quite a while, but I know there is still a faithful following of people who do.
Mm-hmm.
And so the Laravel Homestead project released version 11, which is the next major version of this popular virtual machine for PHP development. So here's a couple new things in this release. So you can enable or disable services. So right in your YAML file, you can say services : enabled, pass in your enabled ones, and you can say disabled. So like, for example, you could enable Postgres and then disable MySQL. So it comes with a couple defaults, but you can enable and disable them from starting by default. So the release notes provide a couple examples. You can check that out. They also have new default versions. So Homestead 11 ships with Ubuntu 20.04, MySQL 8, and Node version 14. So those are new. And then you can also generate a wildcard cert for a site. You can use the wildcard option in the site's configuration. So when you're setting up that site, again, in your YAML file, you just have map foo.test whatever to a folder that is on your Vagrant box. And then you can just say wildcard yes, and that will generate a wildcard SSL for you so that you can use HTTPS instead of HTTP when you're developing locally. So those are the most notable ones. There is a Homestead release notes for version 11. You can find those in the show notes as well. All right, up
Beautiful.
to packages, my friend.
Just on that, we will link up to the Laravel podcast with Matt Stauffer. They had an episode recently. Well, I say recently, I'm very behind on my podcast, so it was probably about a month ago, but they had Joe Ferguson on, who is responsible for maintaining Homestead. They had Nuno Soto on. Is it Nuno? Goodness. Jose Soto. Jose Soto was on there talking about Docker, and I forget, Dr. Byte, I think his GitHub handle, talking about Laravel Valet. So they're talking about different development environments and how different approaches can work in different scenarios and things like that. So we'll link that up in the show notes. Definitely have a listen to that one as well. So onto packages, as you said, the first one that we have here is Localizator. It is a Laravel package for wrapping routes in multiple locale prefixes. So if you've ever needed to do any localization of your routes, if you've wanted to have support for English as your default, but you've also wanted to support, say, German, so you'd have DE, so you'd have your website example.com slash about, and then you would have example.com slash DE slash about to handle the localization. This package allows you to easily handle that grouping and localization of your routes using a middleware, which will help simplify things. So the package provides other configuration options, such as the ability to define a default locale, showing the locale in the URL for the default, and configuring available locales. You can learn more about this package, get the full installation instructions, and view the source code on GitHub. We will have links to all of that in the show notes.
That's one of those problems that is actually very difficult to solve when you're up against it. I know the way we've solved it in the past is sort of to pass like a parameter as the last, like a URL parameter. We say like lang equals and then like the country prefix or the language, whatever it is. I don't know. That's not a prefix. It's the language locale, whatever, right? Whatever that 2-character thing is.
Yeah.
But it is nice if you're able to just say something like laravel.com/language, right? So FR for French / and then whatever the rest of the URL would be. And this does make it really, really easy to do that. So very nice. Very nice. Okay, we also have this inspect application configuration with a new package called Laravel. So this is a package by Roberto Butti. I don't know. How do you say that? Butti?
Butti. Roberto Butti.
There we go. I don't know. Let's go look. Let's go look and see.
He's from Italy. So yeah, I'm going to go with Roberto Butti.
Sounds good to me. Okay, so what this does is it shows you the current configuration of your application. So here's the sort of details you can get from this artisan command. It can list useful configuration variables that you have, your database connection details, tables within your database, the connection via HTTP request. So this package author explains his reasoning for creating this package in his README, which I will read right now. So when I have a new Laravel application deployed on my target server, usually I perform a list of commands in order to check the configuration, the connection to the database, inspect some tables, the response to the web server. I try to store more information in just one command. So this is useful also when the installation of your Laravel application is on premises and someone else takes care of your configuration. So you can visualize all this information via the package's artisan command, and it has a bunch of options. So all you have to do is you just say php artisan Laravel : diagnostic, and then you can pass things like show config, show connection, show database, show runtime, show migration. And then of course, if you only want to show one of them, you can just pass -- show equals database or something like that. I'm interested in hearing about, like, I think the use case he said maybe is in the situation in which you're not managing the config. Is that something like what your team would do, Michael, kind of in the way that you guys have things set up, or do you actually end up deploying and setting your configuration things probably through env, I would assume, right?
Yeah,
like, do you guys handle setting the env values?
Yeah, we handle setting the environment variables and things like that as we need. So we don't manage the servers themselves, so we don't do anything with security or anything like that. But in terms of the applications that are running on top of it and configuring PHP and Nginx, we manage all of that kind of stuff. So we do have access to all of this configuration and things like that to get that up and running.
Gotcha. Hey, this is an interesting thing to talk about real quick, and just because I feel like this has helped me so much just in the last couple of years, maybe a year and a half, something like that. I'm assuming you guys probably use config cache when you're deploying. Yeah. So it took, like, I didn't realize that was a thing for a while, or like I knew it was a thing, but I wasn't using it. So for any of you who might not be using config : cache, PHP artisan config : cache on deploy, I would recommend it. And here's the reason why. A couple actually full version releases ago, they made the decision that you should not have env values anywhere in your application except for in your config files. So at the time, I felt like that was it wasn't a huge deal. We didn't have a lot of envs scattered around our code base, but having kind of this heuristic passed down from the top to say like you shouldn't do this. You should only put them in the config.
Yeah.
Was helpful, I think, because you could get those out of control a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But as long as that's the case, what you can do is you can do config cache on deploy, and then what you don't have to worry about at all is changing your env values and having to worry about getting your deploy out right away, because those env values are, your app is dependent on those env values in the production. So this was really helpful for me because I'll have a pull request sitting out there ready to go, and I'll have to modify some env values, and I can just modify them, no big deal, because they won't get changed until config cache gets called, and then it will look at the env again to update those values. And then it also saves time because they're cached, right? So your application on boot doesn't have to go read all those things from the file system. It just has them in a cache.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah. So that's been helpful. It's like one of those things I'm always thankful for when I have to change env values before I merge a pull request. I'm like, thank God for config cache. So
yeah.
Anyway, that one's for free. There you go.
Beautiful.
We have this thing about multi-tenant apps, a package in minutes. It says this is a big promise they have to deliver on here.
How to make a Laravel app multi-tenant in minutes. This is a tutorial from Samuel Stansel, which helps guide you through getting your Laravel application into a multi-tenant state using the tenancy for Laravel package. The package itself allows you to turn any Laravel application into a multi-tenant application without having to rewrite any of your code. It's as plug and play as tenancy packages get. In the tutorials that Samuel has written, it goes through the most common setup, which is a multi-database tenancy on multiple domains. But if you have a different setup, it is possible. You just need to consult the documentation. So Samuel goes through how this all works, the installation steps that you need to follow, and then the two parts. The first being the separation of the app, the central app, which is used to host the landing page, maybe a central dashboard to manage your tenants and so on. And then the tenant app itself, which is the part that your users or your tenants use, which is most likely where all of the business logic lives. And then it gives you some instructions on how to test it out locally and get that up and running. So definitely check that out if you have been musing over or struggling with getting your application into a multi-tenant state. It looks like a nice, simple approach to get you started. So definitely check that out. We'll have links to it all in the show notes.
I'm interested. In this case, he's talking about databases that are like 100% separated per tenant. Is that correct?
Correct.
Would you say that actually is the most common use case? I'm not sure if I would say that's true. Maybe it is in other circles. That's possible. Maybe that is possible. And I think depending on the needs of your users, right? Some people require that they have a different database.
In Samuel's experience, but I mean, I would not do that. If I was doing multi-tenant, I would just tenant based on an ID in the field. But it depends on the size of your tenants and how much separation they need and things like that. There may be compliance reasons why you're doing separate databases. So, in either case, whether it's multiple databases or tenant IDs in a table, this package sounds like it'll handle both of those scenarios fairly seamlessly for you. So definitely check it out.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, we then move on to a new package by our good friends at Spatie. So this is a Laravel schedule monitor package, and what it does is it monitors your scheduled tasks by keeping a log of each time a task starts, ends, fails, or gets skipped. And a lot of this stuff is actually powered by these new events that have been pushed in by Michael and by Freak over the last year or so. So Michael pull requested one. Did you do the start one? I think you pull requested an event that did start.
Yeah, I did the start, finished, and skipped. And I put in the error handling.
Failed.
Yeah, I put in the error handling for the failed task, but I didn't think to throw an event in there. So Frank put that in a few weeks ago, which is in Laravel 7.19 and above. So if your task failed, it will fire an event there as well.
Yeah. So it works by keeping a record of your scheduled tasks in the database, which you can sync. And then let's see. Yeah. And then after you sync them, you can take a look at them, and then it basically will just log whatever is happening, right, in those situations. So whether it has ran, failed, skipped, ended, it will log those for you. So pretty cool package for sure. Definitely check that out. And then we also have one more, which is web authentication for Laravel. This is a
Yeah.
pretty cool one, and it's actually, yeah, maybe you can talk about this a little bit. You were actually talking about how much you hate magic magic passwords on Notion just before this show started.
It is
So I don't know if this.
it is offensive. I just want to type a password. I don't want to have to break out of the flow of logging into a page to go into my email client to wait for the email to be delivered to copy and paste the random 4-word password that it sends me. I just want to log in with my username and password. So that aside, this WebAuthn for Laravel is a package for authenticating users without passwords using their device, fingerprint, or other biometric data. The package validates the WebAuthn payload from devices using a custom user provider to authenticate users in Laravel. To tie this package together on the front end, it provides an optional JavaScript helper for handling registration and login via the WebAuthn W3 standard. And then the Web Authentication API is a passwordless web browser standard adopted in various degrees by Firefox, Chrome, Edge, and other modern browsers. An excellent introduction to understanding web authentication is the guide to web authentication, which we will include in the show notes. It is at webauthn.guide. Get familiar with WebAuthn and evaluate the browser support before you do implement it in your application. If you're finding that your users are not using these modern browsers, or the browsers that you're seeing lots of your users from don't support it, that'd be something to keep in mind. But definitely check it out. You can learn more about the package, get the full installation instructions, and view the source code on GitHub at darkghosthunter/Larapass. We will have links to it all in the show notes for you.
Have you played with this at all? WebAuthn?
I've heard about it, but not really done anything with it. No.
Yeah, I feel like I've read this guide before, like this password, like this, where it talks about a better alternative for securing our sensitive information online. I feel like I've read this entire article, maybe twice actually before, but I never actually used it.
Yeah. Okay.
It looks interesting though. It looks interesting. Also, you know what I thought was cool is recently I was doing something with Stripe and they wanted like second factor authentication, right? And you can use like Touch ID on your MacBook for that second factor.
There you go.
Like in the web browser, which I thought was pretty cool.
It's probably using this web
It
authentication
probably
library
is.
then, yeah.
Yeah, it probably is. It was really handy. I mean, it's pretty cool though. You just like pop it up and it's like, yeah, swipe your fingerprint straight through the browser. I couldn't believe it. It was pretty cool. Well, hey, as unbelievable as it sounds, we're done. That was 22 minutes. That's it. That's all we got, folks. So thanks so much for tuning in. Michael, you got anything before we wrap it up?
I have nothing further to add at this time.
So polite, you Aussies. Hey, everybody, thanks so much for tuning into episode 124. You can find show notes for this episode at podcast.laravel-news.com/124. Hit us up on Twitter with any questions you might have at Jacob Bennett, at Michael Dorindo, or at Laravel News. And we would really appreciate it if you could rate us up in your podcatcher of choice. 5 stars would be amazing. Most of all, though, just retweet it. Hit us up on Twitter. We love hearing from you guys and girls, Larabels. We'd love to talk to you and have a quick conversation, hear what you're up to. We didn't have anybody reach out last week with a Laravel related article. If you would have, we would have definitely given it a shout out, even if it wasn't on the blog. We're looking for people to talk to us and tell us what they would like to share, and we will do so. Just hit us up on Twitter and tell us. We'd love to do that. Hey, everybody. Thanks again. And until next time, my friends, stay healthy.
Peace out.
See you, everybody. Bye.